Welcome back to Purgatorio, the 13th century poem written by Dante Alighieri. In the last episode, our poets travelled through the threshold of true purgatory. They met the angel at Purgatory's adamant gate who allowed them entry. In this episode, Dante and Virgil will tackle Purgatory's first terrace, the Prideful. Our poets are lost. They stand on a flat ledge that wraps the circumference of the mountain. The ledge is, in width, around the height of 3 grown men. It is deserted and sweeps off in a bow-like curve to both directions. Past the ledge, there is a uniform-looking sheer drop into what appears to be endlessness. The mountain towers overhead. On the inner bend of the curve, the cliff face of the mountain, Dante notices a wall of white marble. It is decorated and carved with unbelievably intricate detail, a mesmerizing sight of stories.
Not just Polycletus would be put to shame, but nature herself.
The first of the sculpted marble images comes to attention. It is the Annunciation, carved in perfect clarity. Dante describes that the angel Gabriel is so meticulously shaped that he can almost hear the angel proclaiming, Ave. Mary then appears to humbly declare herself to the angel using the words Ecce Ancilla Dei, or Behold, the handmaiden of the Lord.
Do not fix your mind in one place only.
Dante widens his gaze away from Mary and sees another story embedded in the marble. He walks a slight way along the ledge to examine it and center it in his vision. The next tale depicts oxen and a cart transporting the Holy Ark to Jerusalem. Before this cart are 7 singing choirs, and with them is King David, dancing in humble clothes, displaying himself with no inhibitions. The king's wife looks down on him from a palace window with scorn. Dante's senses start to argue with each other. He can see and perceive that the choirs are singing, but cannot hear the singing with his ears. He can sense the incense burning in the marble, but no smoke can be smelt. Beyond the angry woman in her windowed palace, Dante moves to see another image. It depicts Emperor Trajan, the virtuous pagan. He is on horseback surrounded by golden eagles and great banners. A distraught woman in his procession is grieving for her son to be avenged, pleading with Trajan to seek justice for him. Trajan tells her to wait until he returns, and she begs him further, asking what will happen if he doesn't return. Trajan responds that his successor will act in his stead. She presses him further, stating no advantage will come to Trajan if another does his good deeds for him. Trajan feels pity for the woman and chooses to do this duty before leaving, delaying his entire campaign to seek justice for this woman. Dante recognizes that the theme of these 3 marble tales are great examples of humility. He praises God for creating masterpieces that can even portray the dialogue of the stories. He states that only God could have fashioned these, as to him, nothing is innovative. Dante stops his tale for a moment to speak to the readers directly. He wants to reassure us before he talks about the punishments of purgatory. Dante implores that when we see how these punishments are enacted, that we have no fears to resolve ourselves to being good people. He doesn't wish the upcoming gruesomeness of penance dissuade anyone from seeking penance, saying that a worse outcome is the suffering of hell.
Do not concern yourself with the form of pain. Think what follows.
It's important to amplify what Dante has just said. He is highlighting here the main difference between Ante-Purgatory and Purgatory. Past the adamant gate, souls are now explicitly punished in a physical manner, to purge their sins in specific ways. Each terrace from now on is a different whip, to lash away a different offence. Remember the 7 P's carved into Dante's forehead in the last episode? The P stands for peccatum. This means sins or offences. As our poet now climbs, he must tackle these 7 offences and wipe away those 7 sins. Virgil approaches and interrupts Dante's delight, directing his attention. our poet is reluctant to look away from the beauty of the marble sculptures.
See, over there are many people, but they are not getting on very quickly. They will show us the way to the next stairs.
Our poet turns from the marble stories to see the people that Virgil was describing. He asks his mentor what he's actually looking at. Those moving towards him don't look like people at all. Virgil agrees, stating that they are crunched to the ground so extremely that he was initially confused as well. He tells Dante to try to untangle what he is seeing.
Look steadily there, beneath those rocks. Now you can see how each one beats his chest.
The first terrace is dedicated to the prideful, those without humility. Their punishment is to carry large, extremely heavy boulders on their backs. The penitents are crumpled up into an intensely uncomfortable position, knees pressed to their chest and faces looking to the ground. Some appear to have slightly heavier loads, some slightly lighter, with the souls in various stages of pain as a result. These shades loop the first terrace, slowly passing the marble stories of humility until their pride has been purged. Dante next recites in full the Lord's Prayer, apparently as recited by the souls here. It is the only full prayer recorded in Dante's entire comedy. Interestingly, Dante puts his own swing on it to pay closer attention to humility. The prayer ends with a note that the recitation is for the living, because the dead here in Purgatory no longer need to fear temptation. The resulting prayer that Dante has crafted ironically appears to be him acting quite pridefully. He assumes here that he has the authority to change a prayer used by so many. This isn't Dante's first prideful act on this terrace either. He's already noted in the comedy that surpassing nature and not imitating it is something only possible through God. Yet when confronted with marble art that is surpassing the limits of nature, Dante assumed he was capable of describing it. The souls wander around the ledge, like in a dream. Dante remarks that because the penitents are working to help the living with their prayer, then shouldn't he assist them in some way as well? Virgil speaks out to the souls.
May justice and mercy soon relieve you of your burdens, so that you may move the wings that will raise you to your desire. Show us whether left or right is the shortest way to the stairs, and which direction goes less steeply.
Virgil continues that Dante is a living man with living flesh. Even though Dante has a great will to climb, he still struggles as any living man would with the mountain. One of the souls replies to our poets.
Along that bank and to the right. Come with us and you'll find a place possible for a living man to climb.
The penitent laments that the rock is too heavy for him to lift his head. He wishes to examine the strange living man wandering Purgatory, wondering aloud whether he might know him. He describes himself as the son of the Tuscan nobleman Guglielmo Aldobrandesco.
The ancient blood and all the petty actions of my ancestors made me so arrogant that I held every man in scorn. I forgot that we all share the same mother.
The penitent says that he died of his scorn, mentioning how the Sienese already know this and all of the children in Campagnatico. He presents himself as Omberto, the Count of Santa Fiore. Counts of that land commonly found themselves in wars against the Sienese.
I must bear this weight among the dead until God is satisfied, since I would not bear it in my life.
Dante bends down to look upon the soul's face whilst he continues to walk. One of the other penitents looks up to Dante with immense strain and calls out to him. The soul recognizes our poet, and our poet actually recognizes this other soul.
Oh, are you not Oderisi, the pride of Gubbio? The pride of that art that Paris called illuminating?
Oderisi de Gubbio, historically, was an illuminator, or manuscript illustrator. He died around 1299. Oderisi was quite famous in his time, once called upon by the Pope to work on documents for the papal library. The penitent dismisses his fame to Dante, stating that Franco Bolognese now produces much more beautiful works than he ever did.
Certainly I was not so polite when I was alive. Because of my great desire to excel, I was engrossed in fame. The penalty of such pride is paid here.
Oderisi says that he would have served his punishment in Purgatory long ago had he not waited to repent his sins just before his death. He condemns human endeavour to the point that being the greatest at something is short-lived and obscured over time by those who are great. He examples this in the painter Cimabue, whose fame is now overtaken by the art of Giotto. Guido Cavalcante, he says, has already overtaken the poet Guido Guinizelli.
Perhaps there is one just born now who may chase them both from the nest.
The last reference about fame ties into Dante quite directly. In talking about the newborn who can chase the great poets from their nest, this was likely a veiled allusion by Dante to his own potential, undermining the lessons of humility that Oderisi is trying to teach. If Dante has an obvious vice, this Terrace is conveying that vice to be pride. Oderisi continues that fame on Earth is like a wind which blows in many directions, carrying new names as it changes course. The young who die before fame hold on to as much of it as those who die old. He questions what 1,000 years is to an eternity. Fame is just the colour of grass, he says, birthed by the sun and then burned and discoloured by it all the same. The penitent directs our pair to another soul in front of him, who was once very famous in Tuscany with a name on everyone's lips. Nowadays, nobody even cares to whisper about the general of Monteperti who routed the Florentines.
Your words are true, and fill me with humility that cures my swelling pride.
Dante asks Oderisi who the soul is he was speaking of just a second before. Oderisi says that was Provenzano Salvani, a Ghibelline. In history, Salvani was killed by Florentines. According to some accounts, his severed head was raised high in the air after he was killed, jokingly fulfilling a prophecy that his head would rise above all others on the field of battle. Oderisi says he suffers here for his presumption to conquer all of Siena. Our poet questions how it is that Salvani got to this place. This soon after the penitent's death, he should still be on the shore of the island. Shouldn't he still be awaiting prayers to proceed? Oderisi justifies Salvani being lifted to Purgatory proper by describing Salvani's single most glorious moment. He put aside all semblance of shame and begged in the centre of Siena. He humiliated himself in order to raise enough funds to free a friend suffering in the jail of Charles I of Anjou. Oderisi says he will speak no more, other than to give Dante this obscure prophecy. Dante will one day also feel the same humiliation as Salvani. Dante follows Oderisi for as long as Virgil permits. His master eventually instructs him to return to the task at hand.
Leave him and pass on, for it is good that, with sail and oars, each should push his own boat on as he can.
Our poet erects himself back to a standing position, describing that, in truth, he still feels low, with his stature now diminished. Walking with Virgil at a fair pace, compared to the penitents at least, he feels somehow lighter. Virgil tells Dante to look down at his feet, as the teachings there might be of use to him. The floor is covered in what appear to be tombstones, the kind you find embedded in the floors of churches. These too were fashioned by God, designed to present those that were cast down and killed by their own pride. Where the marble walls before showed the grace of humility, these convey the evils of pride. As the penitents wander this terrace, face pressed down to the floor, consider that the following 13 images are what they mostly see. First, Dante sees Lucifer during the fall, the most beautiful of angels struck out of heaven by God. Lucifer is crashing down like a thunderbolt. Next is the image of Briareus, the prideful giant struck down by Jupiter. A lightning bolt protrudes from his lifeless body as he lays prone on the floor. The next image shows Apollo, Pallas, and Mars stood beside Jupiter clad in their armour, gathered around the dismembered remains of the fallen giants. Dante spots Nimrod, cast down and confused at the foot of the Tower of Babel. This is the giant speaking gibberish that our poets encountered in Inferno. Nimrod is surrounded by the people of Shinar, proud of their creation that surpassed the limitations of nature. Our poet sees Niobe, who felt pride in her ability to produce children. She is on the road and in tears. Beside her are her 14 dead sons and daughters, cast down by Apollo and Artemis. Next is Saul, the Lord of Gilboa. He was appointed directly by the prophet Samael. His great pride caused him to fall on his own sword rather than be captured by his enemies. Dante notes that afterwards it never again rained in Gilboa or even produced morning dew. Arachne's image comes next, who presumed her fabrics were so great that she challenged Athena. She was transformed into a spider as a result. In the image, she is in a half-transformed state, crying over the scraps of work which undid her. Arachne's tale spoke of her creating fabrics so lifelike they seemed alive, which Dante likely used as inspiration for this terrace. King Rehoboam comes into view, the king who arrogantly overtaxed his people to the point they left him to form their own kingdom. He is seen fleeing in terror in a chariot, no longer an image of fear. Alcmaeon is in the next image, the son of Eriphyle. He murdered his mother after she believed she was fit to wear a necklace of the gods. Eriphyle discarded her husband for this gift, who was then forced to go to war. Alcmaeon sought retribution on his mother for his father's death. Sennacherib, the arrogant king of Assyria, is next up. His pride led him to fail an invasion of Jerusalem. His image depicts his own sons killing him and abandoning his body inside of a temple. Death and destruction can be seen in a depiction of Tamaris's wrath. The image shows her ending the arrogant invader Cyrus that tried to conquer her lands. It displays Cyrus's head held within a wineskin filled with blood. Tamaris can almost be heard saying,
"You thirsted for blood. I will fill you with blood."
The Assyrians are next seen fleeing the field of battle. This is after their conquering, sacrilegious general, Holofernes, was killed by a Hebrew girl that seduced him. The tombstone shows his headless body abandoned on the battlefield. Finally is Troy, ruined, humiliated, and cast down. Its arrogance and pride brought to an end. As Dante talks about these images, he embeds an acrostic into his poem, a device of medieval literature where the first letters of paragraphs spell out another word. In this case, the original poem spells out the letters V-O-M, or translated into modern times, uomo, Italian for man. Dante is portraying the sin of pride as something characteristically linked to humanity. In medieval literature, pride was often seen as the queen of vices, the first sin, and something from which all other human sins flow. Hence the inclusion of Lucifer in these images, the progenitor of sin, on the first Terrace of Purgatory. Dante comments on the images he sees as he walks along them. He questions who could possibly make something so incredible that even a master of the arts would be mesmerized.
The dead looked dead. The living looked alive. Those that had seen the real thing would tell no difference.
Dante realizes how far he has actually travelled. A great deal of the day's sun has already elapsed, whilst he examined the slabs at his feet.
Hold up your head. It is no longer time to walk so irresolutely. It is past noon. See there the angel making his way towards us. Put reverence in your looks and actions so that he delights to send us further upwards.
The angel of humility approaches them robed in white. His face glows brightly, and our poet compares it to the light of the morning star, Venus. The angel holds himself open, spreading his arms and his wings. He says that the steps to continue are nearby, and now the climb will be much easier.
Few find their way here and proceed further. O human race, born to fly upwards, why do you fall at so small a breeze?
The angel guides our poets to the correct path. Before departing them to their devices and wishing them a safe journey, he strikes at Dante's forehead with his wing. Dante describes the climb upwards. He says that it reminds him of the Basilica of San Maniaco in Florence, a place you get to with stairs cut into the side of a mountain. The stairs, like those in Florence, aren't as steep as climbing the sheer wall, but the path is cramped and narrow. During the climb, our poets suddenly hear the hymn Beati Pauperes Spiritu, or Blessed are the poor in spirit. The sound of the singing is beautiful. It causes Dante to take a moment to compare the transitions of terraces of Purgatory to the changing of circles of the Inferno. He finds Purgatory is more agreeable with its singing, as opposed to the even greater sounds of laments as you descend into hell. Our poet feels lighter, and remarks he believes to already be ascending a holy path. He feels he is climbing the mountain even easier than when walking along the flat ground on the Terrace of Pride.
Master, what heavy thing has been lifted from me, so that as I walk it seems my progress is almost effortless?
When the remaining 6 P's which are carved on your forehead, although nearly invisible now, are erased, your feet will then be so moved by good you will feel delight instead of exertion to rise upwards.
Dante checks his forehead instinctively. He traces the cuts that the angel at Purgatory's gate gave him. He moves his fingers along his head and discovers that there are now only 6 remaining. One was struck away by the angel of humility's wing just before they started the climb. Virgil watches Dante rubbing his head and smiles. The poets then climb some more until they eventually reach the second terrace of Purgatory, the Terrace of the Envious.
Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith. Thanks for watching this episode of Aspect History and sticking around to the very end, man. You guys are the reason that the creators here do what they do. So always watch to the end. Not because they might have like, a Marvel scene or something after the credits and whatnot. Because it's the right thing to do. Never click off before the thing is done. Take it right to the end, man. Boop. Because when you do, stuff like this happens. So thanks for watching this episode of Aspect History, man.